I'm Thomas Smith, and today I'm answering the question of what is the law of thirds in composition for photos. So, the law of thirds is a pretty often used principle in how to compose your photos, how to arrange everything within the frame. And the concept is basically that, if you've taken a photo where you center the subject right in the middle of the frame, maybe you're shooting a picture of a flower or a boat or a person or a pet, and it's centered right in the middle of the frame, that's not always the most pleasing composition because it really just kind of draws the eye right to the center. And, it sometimes just comes off as a little bit too in your face to have something there. And it's not something that feels composed. It just feels like you pointed the camera and took the shot. And surely it's fine to have that sometimes, but if you want to have a little more interesting composition, the law of thirds is a way of thinking about composing a shot that draws on some mathematical concepts to make something that's generally pleasing to people. And so basically the idea is think about when you're actually framing up your shot, if you've got the view on the back of your camera, think about dividing the frame into 3 lines horizontally and 3 lines vertically. And some cameras will actually even make those grid lines for you. So you'll have lines that divide the frame into 3 pieces vertically and horizontally. And the concept of the law of thirds is that you want to situate your subject on one of those lines, not right in the center of the frame, either in the top third, bottom third of the frame vertically, same deal horizontally. So if you think about those lines dividing the frame into 3, horizontally and vertically, they're kind of make an X shape at various points, and that would be a good place to have your subject in your image. And if you're taking a photo of something that has kind of multiple layers or multiple subjects, to the extent that you can space them out so that they are located on 2 different grid lines, that's going to add to that composition. So think about a vertical shot of, for example, the ocean, where you might have the beach, the water, the sky. If you can position it so that the sky starts in the top third of the frame and the sand starts in the lower third and the ocean is in the middle, that's going to be a much more pleasing composition than if everything's just sort of centered right in the middle. And there's actually a scientific reason for that. The law of thirds draws on a concept called the golden mean. And that's a very common ratio that's found in nature. So a lot of flowers, a lot of natural objects and progressions follow this same golden mean. It's also very, very commonly used in classical architecture. So a lot of Roman and Greek architecture, for example, the ratios of different objects and spaces follow this golden mean. And the reason, it's thought why the reason, that's the case is that that particular ratio is very pleasing to people. Maybe we see it in nature, it's sort of innate for us to connect things that follow that golden mean with the natural world, and it kind of works for us aesthetically. So the framing where it's a third follows that golden ratio. It's basically 0.33 to 0.66 is the ratio. So if you can frame something there and a third of your shot is one part of the subject, your subject is situated on one of those imaginary grid lines, or for some cameras, actual grid lines, then you'll end up with a composition that sort of follows that natural ratio that humans tend to like and to be drawn to, and you'll end up with something compositionally more interesting. So the next time you're shooting a subject, instead of putting them right in the middle of the frame, try moving out to one of those grid lines, imaginary grid lines, even the intersection of the grid lines, somewhere else in the frame. So, here I am right in the center. If I move over to the side, maybe that's a more interesting shot. It's not a particularly interesting shot anyway, because it's just me in my living room, but if you are taking something out in nature, try to find a way to use that particular ratio and see if it adds something interesting to your composition. Now, of course, every rule in photography is also made to be broken. So, try it, but if you want to put something right in the center of the frame, if you feel like that's going to be the composition for that particular shot, or you want to deliberately violate that rule to sort of draw attention and really just hit the viewer over the head with something right in the center of the frame, and that's totally legitimate too. So, and any rule is made to be broken, but certainly try this one out and see if it adds some drama, adds some interest, adds some beauty to your own compositions. If you found this helpful, I'm going to throw a link to my Zoom In newsletter where I share all kinds of practical photography tips. It's free. Go ahead and join up and check back later for more of these videos.